Drive to Survive really is the gateway drug. So
yeah, it really they really know how to create stories out of everywhere on the grid, which is always very exciting. And we wouldn't have the personality of Gunter and really understand everything he has to offer without Drive to Survive.
I would argue we wouldn't have Daniel Ricciardo. So
I have to agree. Okay, fine. I'm emotionally prepared.
Yeah. No.
DTS, DTS, DTS.
Hello, everyone. It is Briana the next day from my editing cave. Nicole and I last night, while watching this in our delirium, recorded a lot more content than we expected. So I'm going to be splitting up these reactions into multiple parts. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. We are going to be posting reactions to all the episodes over the next couple days. Thank you all for listening to this special DTS episode of Grid.
I don't know. I didn't expect myself to do it.
I just hit record and you just started chanting. And I was
like, That's what happens. But we get Cars on Track in a different way today, and it's previous Cars on Track.
I've been in a testing data hole for 2 days, and unfortunately testing happens in the middle of the night, but then I wake up and I just listen to Cars on Track and look at lap times. So I'm a little fuzzy over the eyes, and I'm ready to watch drama instead of lap times.
Yeah. DTS could not be more opposite of preseason testing.
Yeah. Well,
it's really the two opposite ends of F1 content we have.
Right.
We got this week.
That's why I think it's so genius of a marketing strategy to drop Drive to Survive 1 week before the season starts and preseason testing, because most people are not us, where I'm doing both and you're doing both. But if whatever way you get hyped for the F1 season, here you go. It's obviously a different episode than normal. 1, it is not a Thursday. 2, Nicole's in a different place. My lighting is less dramatic and I'm in a blanket. And that's because this is our DTS reaction show.
Woohoo, yes. So normally we do release our episodes every Thursday. We talk about what we're obsessing with F1 that week. Lots of fun, quick-witted banter, silly little segments that we do every single week. Lots of fun sounders. We're a little chaotic, but in the best way possible.
Yeah. So overall disclaimer, we are both the type of people who wake up at the crack of dawn, 3 a.m. for me for Bahrain, to watch Free Practice 1. Which is not a points-giving session. So we do know all the details about what happened in the season last year because we followed it obsessively. And so a lot of what Drive to Survive is simplifying storylines and making them accessible for new people to come in, which is why it's so cool. And we're mostly just excited to get behind the scenes of all our favorite F1 personalities, but we are coming at it from that perspective. But big F1 fans, and love Drive to Survive. So, gonna get mostly positive excitement and panic from us over here as we see all the behind the scenes.
Yes, we are here for the drama. Parker's here for this chew stick. He wanted to participate in the conversation, so we're having him distracted. But yes, we're here for the drama. This is a Netflix show. It's for entertainment. I'm sure there will be, not exactly how everything that happened, but
cool.
It's fun.
Reality TV. We love it. I actually do love reality TV. All right, so how this episode's going to work is we're going to be reacting to every single episode after we watch it. So right now, neither of us have seen anything. Of course, we know what happened in the season, but we haven't seen a single episode of Drive to Survive. We're going to put it on, and then we're going to come back, and we're going to record our thoughts, give you our instant reactions. We're actually going to rate everything from 1 light, 2 lights out, and away we go. Which will be fun. And then, of course, whether you're listening to this or watching it on YouTube, we're going to have time codes and chapters. So if you listen to a specific episode, you want to jump and hear our thoughts about that, you'll be easily able to do that. And then, of course, we want to hear your thoughts. So, we want to hear your thoughts. So head over to @GridwalkShow on any social media channel. Tell us what you thought. Did you agree with our take on every episode? I think there's going to be a few based on the titles that Nicole and I are going to feel vastly different about. I think a few are going to make us cry, so we want to hear how they make you feel. Also, if you have found this video or this podcast because this is your first foray into F1, like, please stick around. We're not like a tech podcast or an educational podcast, but we are just like a fun group chat. Thank you, Parker. Thank you for agreeing. Parker is a part of our group chat. So we would love to have you. We'd love to have all new fans and like anyone who's just excited about F1. Like, join us. Join Gridwalk. It'll be a lot of fun to have you. So much.
Oh my God. As soon as it was like, and we're racing in Bahrain, I was like, it's happening, even though this is in the past.
Well, and we're also, so it's Friday. We're watching this. We're watching on release day, which means it is 5 days until free practice and not, I can't math. No, it's 7 days until free practice, 9 days until we actually get to, I want racing again.
Lights out. That was so many feelings. So we just finished episode 1.
Yeah, I just was like, racing! I took notes as we were watching because I'm forgetful. And that was emotional. Yeah, okay.
Notes. Look at us with our paper.
I sort of took notes in order, so I figured I'd throw out a thought to you, and then we'll just, like, chat.
Go.
I'm so happy to see Lewis back in the interview seat.
It was, I mean, he didn't look happy, but it was like, yes, I need him in this setting, especially if we were getting Max back in his seat on this. I'm sure Lewis was like, if he's going to do it, you know, I think it was the right move of having his voice be a part of this story. Yes.
And we're getting very limited Mercedes this season, even knowing that next episode will be about Mercedes, but I've also decided, okay, so going into this, we knew Max was back in the seat. They make a whole big deal about it, blah, 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 blah. And we know that Max's team has veto power, basically. Like they were basically got to consult on Max's view coming out of this. Like, they wanted to make Max look good. Yeah. And I've decided after watching this that Max just needs to lean into being a heel. Like, they asked him, like, why'd you go with number 1 on your car? And he gave the most wet blanket answer I've ever heard that I don't even remember it. Like, just come out and say, because I won that championship and I wanted it on my car. Instead, he's like, well, it became available. And I'm like, that is just boring. Like, either be charismatic and entertaining or lean into it. Be the bad guy. It's okay.
You know, he was just kind of like a straddle of the in-between of it, but yeah.
It's and boring.
Seeing the W13 before it races made me nauseous. When George was like, the first time I saw this car, all I thought was, it looks fast. And I'm just like, you're wrong. Like, it made me ill to see it, and everyone's looking at it. It's like, our car looks different than everybody else's. It's like, it is.
Still comfortably the 3rd fastest car, though. So some context here is, like, F1 tech nerd. So, like, the thing everyone wants to talk about is Mercedes side pods, but, like, that car doesn't end up being slow or porpoising because of those side pods. But I did enjoy Charles walking up and basically being like, what's this shit? Everyone's like, why does your car look that way?
Yeah, no, but thank God it's gone.
I missed dramatic Drive to Survive transitions, like the radioing into Kevin Magnussen and then them zooming in on his helmet, and then they like flash to Denmark and show that he has a family now, and that implying that that's what's on his mind. Like, perfection.
Mm-hmm. Every time I get in the car, I think now it's different because I have a family to think about, and and just in general, yes, again, it's all for entertainment and it's all drama, but the shots of like the racing shots and how this the whole race's portrayed of the storyline of Ferrari and a Red Bull downfall, and like obviously knowing of what continues of happening. It was just so movie cinematic. Even the shot of Pierre like, jumping out of the car fully on fire, which of course is a terrifying thing, was an unbelievable shot that someone filmed. Just wow. So really scary. High production as always.
I forgot how scary that failure was. Because it's been a year now, so yeah. Boxes or box-to-box films. My brain just goes box. The documentary crew's ability to make anyone the main character of an episode is still unmatched. Like, that Kevin Magnussen story was huge and was like one of the biggest stories, and Haas being P5 was huge. But if you like had never seen anything, you would think that Haas would be super competitive all season and that Kevin's going to be participating in the championship. And it's like, nope, this is it. This is the peak. But that's okay because it was so good and so dramatic.
Yeah, I literally said my big K-Mag moments. One, oh my gosh, him being a dad. And I love how Box to Box is making every single thing that he's involved in this episode look unbelievably epic. And also, his baby celebrating for the P5 was so cute. Just little hands.
I stand by that the strength of this show is I just like hearing what they say when they walk around. Like, it's just like the casual statements is the best. Mattia and Gunther's spinoff, not a creative thought. Everyone I've seen is saying this, but yes, I wholeheartedly agree. I would watch those two driving around for 10 hours of television of just that.
I said this as we were watching the first episode. I was like, this looks like it's the new comedians in cars getting coffee. But the constant, watching how they're explaining the Ferrari storyline and then just knowing Mattia's future at the end of it, it's all just an incredible buildup. But I just loved as they're talking about things and then they cut to him chugging wine. And then at the end of the episode, Gunther's like, yeah, we should just not listen to people in the future. And then they clink glasses and they're still drinking wine. It's just yeah, this is why everything is they're on vacation. They're in a vineyard. They're drinking wine. And this is,
in a shot specifically shot for the Netflix show. I don't think Mattia and Gunther just vacation together, but I think they should. I am fully in favor of that. I'm trying. There was one. Like always, there are actually a lot of women who work in Formula One. Shocking. We had a total of one woman with a speaking line this entire episode, and it was K-Mag's daughter cooing.
Yeah, not a great look so far on the Bechtel scale thing at all. Not that I think this would ever pass that, but just
it fails every year.
A woman would be cool.
I will put out there that the people in charge, the documentary crew, understands that this is a problem, and they like to push off the problem on Formula One, and they're like, F1, hire more women. And I will argue to that, F1 has hired many women, and there's also many women commentators, and there's lots of females who are not the wives and girlfriends of just the drivers and the team principals that could be present.
Or ex-girlfriends. We did get
Oh, yes. Oh, you know what? I was wrong. We had 2 female speaking lines. I completely forgot that Lando's ex-girlfriend had a line.
Great. That was a shocking... It felt like a jump scare in that. I was not anticipating that to be part of the storyline of the episode. Hey,
Box to Box Films, Netflix, if you would like a list of women who I think it would be interesting for you to integrate in your storylines who work for these teams. I'm not in Formula One, but I could still give you that list because I consume it every week and I do follow this. So I'm throwing it out there. It is possible, and I think you should take a little responsibility too. Thank you. Rant's done. We can go back to talking about how this is just goofy, silly fun.
Netflix and Box Films continuing their love letter just to Haas in general, to Gunther in general. I admire their commitment to how they know Haas was such a big, important part of making Drive to Survive of what it is and having storylines, even though they're, maybe not the most exciting performance when you're watching the live season. But I appreciate that they're committed to still including them and involving them heavily in the process. They know the people like Gunther's absurd lines like asking, Mattia, does your nose fit in that wine glass? Like,
all right, how do you rate the episode from 1 light to lights out and away we go?
3. I feel like I may have to adjust, but first episode, met expectations. It's middle of the road for me.
I got Lewis speaking and Mattia and Gunther in a car. Like, to me, this feels like it's going to go downhill from here, knowing what I know about the season. So I'm going to give this a solid 4 lights. It's not a 5 light or a lights out, but it's a 4 light. 4 light. Okay.
Wow. Okay, so episode 2, we just finished.
So admittedly, Nicole and I recorded this entire segment already, and it somehow didn't record, and I don't know. So, we're gonna start over. If we sound less enthusiastic, that's why.
This is an emotional, and it's an emotional Mercedes episode. We go through a lot of, returning to torturous feelings of last year.
Right.
Hearing Toto say the word failure so many times.
Yeah. I thought it was cool that we got to see the behind the scenes of his, talk at Harvard, even though I know that talk at Harvard happened in, October, so, way after the events of what we see, but it was still cool. Yeah, so, it feels weird, because I'm repeating myself, but none of you heard what I said, so, great. We have spent the last 12 months hearing F1, particular members of F1 media dig their heels in on some very incorrect storylines from last season, and I was fully going into this episode expecting for that to just be the storyline, because apparently no one in F1 media was able to come up with a better storyline all season than something that we all know to be incorrect. Because it's better to lie about Lewis Hamilton than to just tell the story. And I really appreciated that they didn't harp on all those incorrect storylines, which I'm not even saying, because if you didn't follow last season and you were watching this, I don't even need to tell you the lies that have been spreading, because they're lies, and this show didn't even touch on them. And this, to me, the stakes of this is Lewis's worst car of his entire career, or at least his worst car since that last McLaren car, but he still won a race in that last McLaren car. And, will he retire? He's physically in a lot of pain, and can Mercedes engineering team, fix this? Those are all really engaging storylines. So it honestly, upon reflection, just makes me even angrier that I've had to spend 12 months listening to F1 media make up other storylines, because these storylines are engaging and exciting and good enough to follow.
Yes, and just hearing Toto and George and Lewis talking about how last season was, and that it was a very humbling experience. I think they did grow a lot from it, and hopefully going into this season it did something. But again, consistently talking about the failures and just being really honest about last year. It was painful to hear, but I'm glad they were acknowledging all of it. But Toto was candid throughout the whole episode, but particularly during that team principal meeting, which we had heard rumblings about. Someone leaked it in the media that there was a screaming match and Netflix cameras were there to capture it all.
The amount of hype I have heard about this meeting, since it happened, and it was so subdued and so boring. I would say of all the things that happened in this episode, that was the part that had me rolling my eyes the most. And it was probably because it got so much hype that it's going to be the screaming match of the century that you see on Drive to Survive. And I'm like, oh, okay. Toto looked upset and concerned for driver safety. And admittedly, what he was saying, Checo did make a ton of quotes about how bad the car was. And Christian, to this day, pretends those quotes don't exist. So, they didn't fabricate any of that. But it just wasn't as dramatic as everyone said it was going to be.
No, it felt like there was a fight in the high school cafeteria. Even not everyone was involved. Williams team principals are just we're just watching the drama. It's fun to watch. And then, like, as everyone's being dismissed, they're all, like, clicking together and being like, hee, 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 hee. Gunther's, like, running up to everyone and being like, wasn't that crazy, guys? Like, wow, he was, like, so upset. And Mattia and Christian of, like, as we had saw last year, being, like, buddy of, like, oh, he's so tired. Like, oh, he should just fix his forking car. It was just so unbelievably high school. I did love when Toto and Stefano was like, no, we're not talking about this right now. He's like, no, I am talking. I am talking now, and I am talking. And it was, yeah. So high school drama was not what I was expecting from the buzzing last season.
Right.
So, but again, silly entertainment.
So I have a couple of like random thoughts and takeaways that have nothing to do with the actual storyline. One, we've watched 2 hours of Drive to Survive, and if you didn't watch last season, you would have zero idea that Max won 17 of the 22 races, Red Bull won 19 of the 22 races, and completely dominated this championship. All we've seen is Ferrari's doing great, and Mercedes is back in fighting, and like, they dominated the championship. Number two, Lewis with his hair down, love it. We spent all last season upset, rightfully so, that Binotto spent the entire time politically aligning himself with Red Bull, which was great for Red Bull, considering, remember, 17 of 22 races Max won. One of the most dominant seasons in F1 ever. And Binotto spent the entire time politically aligning himself with Christian Horner, which we got to see here, which was dumb. And there was a giant iPad, and I thought it was cool. You see that they were like writing, like, oh, we need to fix this part of the car here, and I was like, that's awesome.
Yes, technology is incredible. I'm glad they have the jumbo iPads. My big takeaways: we had a Sam Collins spotting, super quick interviewing Toto, and I was like, oh, I miss you. Can't wait to see you. Tom Cruise, big supporting character in this episode. Was not anticipating him to say so many words and be involved, but like, you know what? Netflix did something. Hey, everyone at Netflix and Box Films, how dare you have Susie Wolf be present in so many moments at all and her just not say anything because rude. We were just talking about in episode 1 that there was not female presence. She was there. She's right there. That entire Harvard Business School talk was the two of them. Just, you can't, like, she's not just there to have Toto, like, complain to.
Yeah. So I've committed, and in this episode, women said 6 lines, none of which were crucial to the story or consequential.
Cool.
And there were actually visually a ton of women in this episode because the diversity, and specifically the gender diversity of the Mercedes team in particular, is impeccable. And so many of those women, like, we could just put them in the seat. We didn't need Will Buxton the entire time, even though I thought he does a great job. I'm not trying to get, like, Will Buxton can keep his job, but, like, maybe have Angela say one thing considering she's Lewis's physio, so we're doing the whole storyline about how much pain he was in after Baku. Like, maybe have her say one thing about the recovery. Like, there were multiple opportunities to bring, like, women in that team into this. And to your point, like, Susie is a great interview. We saw her in all last season. And, like, maybe at least just let her respond to Toto. You don't have to cut it after Toto complains to her. It's really... But we're up from episode 1. We've had 6 women speak. And one of them, I'll point out, is the Toto the dog that we opened this up with. And that dog really was very cute.
I thought that was a great opening to the episode, and I could just imagine, like, wow, what a great way to solidify, like, meeting Toto when he comes back to campus is, like, the girl who named her dog after him.
Right.
So,
right. Loved it. I did love it.
And we returned to Silverstone. So, again, Silverstone, it just brought me back to, like, the emotional roller coaster that was that race for so many reasons. I mean, we have to acknowledge, I will never get used to watching Joe's accident, but every time I watch it, it feels like it's getting longer. It lasts forever. It's so absolutely terrifying. Then they cut to the empty chair, and he, like, walks in. All of it was just as putting me on edge as, like, the first time that I saw it.
Yeah. Admittedly, I So there are people who watch Formula One because they like the risk of someone being very injured or dying. I am so far from that. I would actually like the sport more if you could guarantee me there would be zero injury ever. Like, that would make me a bigger F1 fan. And we have an F1 podcast, so I love F1. I think I understand that that's part of the sport, and they're going to make it dramatic. I'm so uncomfortable by it, and the only thing that made me comfortable was knowing that he's completely okay. But if I was watching that for the first time, I would feel so uncomfortable that they, like, left an empty seat, and then, like, because they elongated the drama of that, and it just made me nauseous even knowing that everything was okay. I also know that I think what George did was amazing. But I am constantly uncomfortable with the, like, turning him into a hero storyline, and then, like, if Joe doesn't have another part in this entire thing other than to, like, eulogize how great of a person George Russell is, like, I just really hope he's in future episodes, like, being his own person versus, like, because George did cause that crash. So instead of commenting that George could have killed Joe, they had Joe sit in a seat and talk about how nice of a person George is, which he seems to be. Some of that makes me, there's a lot of that makes me incredibly uncomfortable, is really what I'm just saying.
Right. I'm hoping that, I'm now saying this with hoping that there is more Joe in this.
We're reacting in the moment.
Right. I just am, I enjoyed the perspective that George provided of just, like, this is the worst fear as a driver, and like, having another driver there and just calling over the marshals. And of course, obviously, George being involved in that crash is something to include, and not the last time we see it. Last season of George being involved in a crash.
George was a little aggressive.
A little bit, yes. Yeah. So it was, again, I'm on the use Joe more train constantly. We apparently maybe not have too much Alfa Romeo, but we'll see. Just again, it's a miracle. It's incredible that he's okay. On a positive piece of Silverstone, it still is just as hype-inducing to hear, "Through goes Lewis Hamilton!" I just see the bird and it's yelling that meme. It's embedded in my brain. I'm jumping out of my, like, seat as I'm watching the race. Absolutely love it every time I hear it. I have that clip, like, etched in my eyes, please. Like, oh.
And we're going to return to Silverstone, I'm pretty sure, in a later episode, and we'll get to see Carlos win. But yeah, this was a great race. This was probably the best race of the season, so as much time as we can spend in Silverstone would be great. I will point out my sole big disappointment from this episode is that shot of Lewis talking to the fans after the race. Roscoe was there, but there was no Roscoe in Drive to Survive, and that is criminal.
Roscoe is Lewis's dog. I know we don't need to teach everyone everything, but it's so important for everyone to know who Roscoe is.
Yeah, and he does have his own Instagram, Roscoe does, and it's up for debate whether Lewis runs Roscoe's account or if Lewis pays a social media manager to run Roscoe's account. It is also up for debate which of those options is better.
I like to go with both.
I just like to imagine that, like, he pays a social media agency to run the account, and so he gets sent copy. Like, hey, we're going to post this photo of Roscoe, and it's going to sound like this. And, like, Lewis sends feedback about... Oh, because important context. The Instagram account, it comes from the perspective of the dog. So, like, the caption is, like, I went for a walk. Instead of, like, someone took Roscoe for a walk. So, I just love the idea that there's a copywriter writing this copy, and then Lewis is like, no, Roscoe wouldn't sound like that. Mm-hmm. How would you rate this from 1 light to lights out?
I am giving this episode a 4 lights out. I would have given a 5 lights out and not an all lights out. But it's, not necessarily like a super hypey episode. It's a little bit of a downer sometimes. But lots of Mercedes content in any sense of the way gets me, like, really excited, and I'll be interested. So 4 lights out of 5 for me.
I think this is a 5 lighter for me. So, like, a step before lights out on the way we go, because I agree that it wasn't hype. And for me to be like, it's lights out and away we go on an episode, I feel like I need to feel hype. But watching Lewis tell all those people that he's going to be sticking around for a while, and then he's sitting in the seat and telling us, like, I legitimately started to cry, which was embarrassing because I'm just so happy he's not leaving. So 5. But, like, I don't know, I'm reserving my lights out. Maybe at the end, when we're recapping the whole season, this will become my lights out and away we go. Because, like, I'm so happy he's staying.
Yeah, him in the chair, and he's like, game on. I'm like, he's right, game on, we're ready.